Okay, guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits psychologically with equine therapy. So we talk so much about therapeutic riding and the physical benefits of it, particularly as a type 1 diabetic. My getting involved with horses and horseback riding was for the physical side of it. So my doctor said at the age of 8 when I was diagnosed that I needed to have physical activity to help with my blood sugar, to help with my blood flow. And so things like swimming versus then horseback riding were good alternatives for me in my diabetes. They weren't too intensive that I would have a sharp drop in blood sugars, but they still will help with building the muscle, helping with circulation, helping, of course, with my blood sugars. And so, again, for a lot of these different disabilities, whether we're talking like diabetes or if we're talking, let's say, someone with with multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, or whatnot, where we're even working on joint-related issues, posture-related issues, those kinds of things. The physical activity of riding itself is wonderful, but let's focus on the psychological side. So at the age of 8, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. To me, I thought it was a death sentence. I can remember my mother sitting and crying at the doctor's office when I was diagnosed. I didn't know. I was 8 years old. I didn't know what it meant, but it really scared me. It also meant that I was someone different. And so that's one of the things when you're diagnosed with a disability, with some type of medical condition or whatnot, particularly as a youth, you all of a sudden feel different from everybody else. And so that feeling of not being quote unquote normal is really quite scary. You then start to wonder about, what does this mean? So I was very fortunate. Very early, my mom started talking about to my doctor what I could do. And of course, they mentioned the horses. So she sent me off to a diabetic camp. And so at the camp, I got to swim, I got to do other activities, but I also for the first time got to ride. And that was a wonderful thing, was the riding. I felt I got a chance to socialize with other diabetics. And that's one of the key things with these therapy programs. You're usually in a group session with other people that have this disability. So you get to interact with them. And again, as a kid, I was a part of a group and I didn't feel so different anymore. So that's a good thing. Then you start to talk about exercise. Well, once I get started exercising, it wasn't that concussive. It wasn't that hard on me. My blood sugars didn't drop immediately. They actually were good. So feeling healthier made me also psychologically feel better. In fact, exercise alone naturally induces endorphins, serotonin levels within the brain, and that's going to help to give us that happy feeling. So exercise in general does that, and so riding the horse, it didn't make me feel sore or anything like that, and so all I got was that natural, like we think of in runners, that natural runner high. I got that, and so any type of aerobic exercise will do that for you. And so that natural feeling, that good feeling that I got physically from it, and it wasn't intensive enough that I got the pain. Sometimes when you over-exercise, you start feeling sore. I didn't get that, and that's one of the good things about it. So again, that socialization made me not feel so alone. It, relieves some of that anxiety and also depression associated with this new condition. But it also, again, the physical aspect of it, that those endorphins, the serotonin, gave me that natural kind of feeling, that high. In fact, when I left that camp, I was like, I must keep riding. My poor mom, if she knew exactly what she was doing, because I made a career out of it, she probably would have focused on swimming or something like that. But it was that craving for wanting to feel as physically good as I did when I was on top of the horse. And so again, psychologically, that gave me a boost. And so that's one of the things that we find with individuals with these disabilities, is that there is that natural feeling, that good feeling that we get from exercise in general, but it also that socialization and interaction, doing something, normal kids do, but we're doing it as a group together. We're bonding as together. We would sit there and laugh. I can remember the camp that first year, we kind of laugh about, I found a neat way to inject myself with my insulin shot. How many times have you pricked in this finger when you were checking your blood sugar? Silly things while we were on top of the horse, kind of gabbing and whatnot. And so again, that socialization is extremely beneficial. And that's something we get with the horse and horseback riding. There's something about once you get on top of a horse that is so empowering. It builds your confidence, your self-esteem, because here I am on 1,000-pound animal. And again, as a kid that was diagnosed with diabetes and felt like I was a weak individual, getting up on the horse made me feel so confident, so empowered. And that's something that I got very easily from my equine therapy. But I'll be really honest, 5 years ago, I'm shocked that I got back on this horse. I was terrified to get back up on this horse. So I had spent my life after my diabetes trying to break every boundary when it came to what was the norm for diabetes, meaning I was a very physically active individual. I competed in tennis, I competed, with the horses. I was a very physically active individual. So I always got from my doctors this, I can't believe you're a type 1 diabetic and you've had it for so many years. Even proud to say I had 2 children, rode up until my last week before I delivered and had no problems, got them, they're healthy and whatnot, and I recovered really well from them. So again, I attribute that to the horse and I felt very empowered by it. But I broke every boundary because of the horse. So it was when I was going into the riding arena about 5 years ago that I stepped into the arena, and unfortunately I hit a spot where with my foot, wasn't on top of a horse, and the footing gave way and I fell face first. Not a pretty fall. And again, remember, it wasn't a cool story about coming off of a bucking bronco or whatnot. It was me stepping into the arena and I fell. When I fell, I lost a lot of that confidence. I grew a lot of anxiety. All of a sudden, I felt like I honestly didn't know if I had the physical, maybe those doctors were right at 8 years old, that I was literally being given a death sentence. I soon learned that I had, from the fall, because I was older and I also was a diabetic, that I had a lot of complications from falling on dirt. A lot of times doctors would say, I can't believe you just fell on dirt. But I ended up causing a lot of facial trauma, optic nerve damage. For those that know, trigeminal neuralgia, I was diagnosed with that from the trauma. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as a suicide disorder because of the pain. I caused jaw damage, so I have TMJ. I caused bulging in my cervical disc, my cervical vertebrae, my thoracic vertebrae, and my lumbar vertebrae, bulging disc in all 3 areas, along with sciatic nerve damage, knee joint damage to my tendon, and nerve damage associated with that. And then finally, nerve damage across my radial ulnar nerve that caused even damage within my hand. So significant damage from a simple fall. That caused a lot of anxiety. It also caused a lot of depression. It was very hard for me to even go out and do any physical activity, let alone get on a horse. Literally, my life changed in an instant with that fall. I was soon after, because of all that anxiety and depression that kind of persisted and the changes that it caused, I was later diagnosed with adjustment disorder. And what that meant was, yes, for many people, a fall is scary, but it persisted, that anxiety and that depression persisted. The changing of my life, the pain that I had to deal with, I just couldn't move forward. My doctors kept saying, just get back on the horse. I was terrified. I literally was terrified. If I could fall just by stepping into the arena, I could fall off a horse. So it really took the horses and me getting back on the horse for me to find myself again. I had to have and you can see I'm on this great horse here. This is Val, a babysitter to take care of me. Actually, it was another horse that we had that recently just passed away that was actually my savior. He was a horse that actually I had my son get on after his break on his arm. He was the first horse he got on, and the horse would barely walk for him. So Tex was really sweet. He just stood there and didn't barely want to move because he was so scared for him. I knew then that would be the perfect horse for me. I got on him. The first time that I got on him, I was terrified. I was shaking, but the horse just stood there. He wouldn't move because he knew I was scared. He wasn't being mean. And he slowly started to increase in speed and slowly started to do things once he knew I built my confidence up. It took him gradually working with me, and then eventually I graduated on good old Val Gal here, that I learned that I could be confident again and soon move past my adjustment disorder, soon move past my anxiety and my depression. It took the horse and symbolically doing that and realizing, even with, yes, I live with pain every day, but I'm able to feel more like myself and to be able to take those little extra risks because I'm confident again. And I feel myself again. And it was the horse that did that. Getting back on my doctor was exactly right. I needed to get back up on that horse again. Of course, that took several years after my diagnosis. And I've had setbacks along the way, but it was the horse and continues to be the horse. Whenever I'm feeling down or anything or anxious about just simple little things, I know I can come back to the horse, get back up on the horse, and that confidence comes back into me. And that's something you'll find with equine therapy. So again, think about those things as you're working with individuals that may be struggling not only physically but emotionally, how beneficial the horse can be. And in my case, dealing with both my early age health condition and then later my fall, I have learned truly personally myself how horses can be so beneficial.